The series begins in Munich, Germany. An old man is seen mumbling to himself in his bathroom mirror. As the camera pans around the small flat, an identical version of this man, named Ralph, is seen dead in his living room. The live version, Jackal, is a master of disguise and an assassin. He has assumed Ralph's identity as a cleaner and is wearing Ralph's employee key card. Jackal practices speaking like Ralph, going through Ralph's pockets. He takes out a pack of cigarettes, puts them in his own pocket and leaves. Later that same night, Jackal, still posing as Ralph, enters a building owned by Manfred Fest, a prominent magazine magnate and political figure in the running to be the next German chancellor. The guard greets Jackal and tells him that he is late again. The guard asks about the new backpack Jackal is carrying, hinting that there is something unusual about it. Jackal stops and looks at the guard for a moment, then walks away without saying a word. Using Ralph's key card, Jackal makes his way through the building. He uses the elevator to reach the top floor where a guard greets him. Jackal asks the guard if anyone is here tonight, and the guard informs him that only Mr. Elias Fest and Jennifer are inside. Elias is the son of Manfred Fest. Jackal watches Elias and Jennifer argue in a room before moving to another room to clean. Inside, he takes out a gun from his backpack. Suddenly, Jennifer enters and Jackal turns around and shoots her with a silenced gun. The guard suspects something and goes to check on Jackal. Jackal shoots the guard and proceeds to shoot at Elias Fest through the glass window. Elias narrowly escapes and runs down the stairs. Jackal chases him and shoots Elias in the leg. Elias begs for his life, but Jackal spares him and runs to the roof of the building. There, Jackal throws a smoke bomb onto the street. Using a rope tied to the top of the building, he climbs down and flees from the scene. Later, Jackal enters a room and starts peeling off his carefully applied makeup and mask, revealing a much younger and completely different man underneath. The following morning, Jackal skillfully assembles a rifle in his room. He tests the rifle with a couple of quiet shots on the wall of St. Elizabeth Hospital and then calmly waits for his target. Meanwhile, Manfred Fest is on his way to St. Elizabeth Hospital to visit his injured son. In the car, Manfred links the assassination attempt to his controversial anti-immigration opinions. Upon arriving at the hospital entrance, Manfred sees a large crowd protesting him and shouting anti-Fest slogans. Security escorts him inside. As Manfred approaches the hospital doors, Jackal takes aim from afar and shoots. The bullet reaches Manfred's head, killing him instantly. Security manages to spot the location of the sniper, but Jackal remains calm and swiftly packs his weapon in a briefcase. He plants a bomb in his room and leaves. Later, he changes his car and plants another bomb inside, becoming untraceable. The bombs explode soon after, erasing all the evidence. The following day, Jackal arrives in Nuremberg, Germany to meet a man. Jackal buys an antique chess set and leaves. Later that day, Jackal reaches the German-French border. He pulls up to a checkpoint where every car is being examined by border patrol officers. One of the officers asks for his passport. Calm and collected, Jackal hands it over. The officer asks him to open the trunk. When Jackal opens it, the officer sees a small box inside and asks him to open it. Jackal opens the box to reveal the chess set he bought earlier. The officer lets Jackal pass into France without suspicion. The next morning, Jackal enters a cyber cafe near a train station in France. He logs into his dark web account and texts for payment for the job done in Munich. He gets a response telling him to wait 24 hours. Suddenly, another message appears offering him €1 million for an assignment. He agrees to meet to further discuss the job and gives the location of the meeting before leaving the cafe. Jackal then travels to Lake Malari in Sweden, where he meets a woman without revealing his face. He asks her to give him the name of the target. The woman tells him she wants him to kill Ulla Dog Charles, also known as UDC. Jackal asks for €100 million for the assignment. The woman says she will need to consult her colleagues. Hearing this, Jackal leaves. Afterward, Jackal arrives at his home in Cadiz, Spain to surprise his wife, Nora. Later that day, Jackal hides his gun in a secret safe under the floor of his closet. He logs into his dark web account and inquires about his payment for the Munich job, which still has not been received. Instead of money, he receives a text saying, F********. Meanwhile, MI6 agent Bianca examines a new gun brought in by her colleague. While chatting, they notice a new alert on the TV about the shocking assassination of Manfred Fest. Bianca looks at the details of the case, shocked to see that the sniper took a precise shot from a distance of 3,815 meters. She attends a meeting where Werner Lechner, a representative from German intelligence, briefs MI6 agents about the aftermath of the assassination. When asked by Bianca, Werner tells her that no rifle was found on site. They also watched the security footage where the suspect leaves with a small briefcase. Bianca informs them that the briefcase is too small to carry even the smallest rifle. She suggests that the rifle could be custom-made with a two-part barrel and mentions Norman Stoke, an Irish gunmaker who has been rumored to be working on such a design for years. She argues that Norman could be the only person capable of creating such a rifle. Her seniors doubt her, but she insists that Norman could lead them to the assassin. After the meeting, Bianca is called into a private conversation by her superior, Isabel. Isabel asks how Bianca plans to track down Norman. Bianca tells her she has an asset in Belfast by the code name Sparrow. Isabel asks her to find Norman. Later that day, Bianca arrives at a supermarket in Belfast to meet her asset, Alison. Alison warns Bianca that if her husband, Larry, catches her talking to Bianca, she will be in trouble. Alison's husband Larry is the brother of Norman Stoke. Bianca asks Alison to provide Norman's information quickly. Alison requests more time to find out Norman's whereabouts. Bianca insists on getting the information that night and leaves. At night, Bianca waits for Alison's text but receives nothing. The next morning, Bianca's supervisors ask if she has located Norman. Bianca says no and suggests they change their tactics. She asks for the details of Alison's daughter, Emma, who is a student in London. Hesitantly, her supervisors agree. In the next scene, Bianca attends a protest where people chant UDC's name and demand the truth about money. Bianca spots Emma at the protest and asks the police officer to arrest her. The officer takes Emma to the station. At the station, Emma asks for a lawyer, but the officer tells her she can only call her mother and puts her in a cell. After some time, the officer calls Bianca to inform her that Emma is having a cardiac arrest. Bianca quickly arrives and puts Emma in an ambulance. In the ambulance, Bianca tries to revive Emma, but Emma dies on the way to the hospital. The next morning, Bianca gets a call from Alison, who accuses Bianca of putting her daughter in jail. Alison doesn't know that Emma has died in the cell. Bianca does not tell Alison about Emma's death. She offers Alison a deal. She will get Emma out of jail in exchange for Norman's phone number. Later, Bianca meets her seniors, who inform her that Emma had a pre-existing heart condition and could have died anyway. They introduce her to a man named Carver, who is going to clean up her mess. Bianca asks Carver to keep Emma's death a secret for 24 hours and he agrees. After leaving the meeting, Bianca calls Alison and tells her that she has arranged for Emma's release, but she needs Norman's phone number within 24 hours. The next scene shows Alison convincing Larry to call his brother Norman for money. She tells Larry that they need the money to visit their daughter, who is still in jail. Larry says he has already called Norman twice. Later that night, they are at a bar drinking and Larry goes to get a drink for Alison. Discreetly, Alison grabs Larry's phone, takes a photo of Norman's number and sends it to Bianca. With Norman's phone number, Bianca tracks him down in Belarus. She goes to the location with a team. Norman, who seems to have been expecting them, opens fire, killing 2 of Bianca's men. Norman manages to escape, and Bianca finds Norman's briefcase lying in the forest. Meanwhile, in Spain, Jackal finally receives payment for the Munich job. He texts his bank to find out the source of the payment and researches his next target, UDC, a billionaire tech entrepreneur launching his new software called The River, which aims to create global financial transparency and track money flows. In New York, a group of shady businessmen discuss whether Jackal can be trusted. Leonora, who met Jackal in Sweden, is also present and assures them that Jackal is the best they can find. They agree to pay Jackal 100 million euros if he kills UDC. Jackal is later seen celebrating his son's birthday with Nora's family. While at the party, Jackal receives a text from his bank, which sends him the location where the Munich job payment originated. Realizing the payment came from a bank in Munich, Jackal decides to leave the party and head to Munich. Nora, seeming disappointed, drops him off at the airport. After Nora leaves, Jackal secretly leaves the airport and heads to a bank locker, where he has hidden large sums of money and multiple passports with different identities. He takes one of these passports and leaves in a taxi. Nora, now worried, sees her husband in the taxi after just dropping him off at the airport. Meanwhile, Bianca is still on Jackal's trail and tracks the bag he carried in the Manfred Fest building. She deduces from the logo and the accuracy of the shot that Jackal is British, possibly ex-army. Jackal reaches Munich and receives a call from Leonora, who asks him to meet. They meet in a garden, but Leonora does not see Jackal's face. She tells him that her colleagues have agreed to pay 100 million euros to kill UDC, but the job must be completed by the 28th. Jackal agrees and is given 20 million euros as a commencement fee, with instructions not to attract attention while in Munich. They agree to use the code name Roden for UDC and Jackal for the sniper. Jackal discovers that the payment for the Munich job was made from a company account under the name Heine. He follows the trail back to two names, Hans Lange and Elias Fest. Jackal eventually figures out that the person who wanted to kill Manfred Fest was none other than Manfred's own son, Elias Fest. Elias is the one who made the payment for the Munich job. Disguised as an old man, Jackal heads to a funeral parlor. He asks the funeral director for advice on what to do with his dead wife's house. Seeing the old man is sad, the director offers counseling to help handle grief. While talking, Jackal fakes a migraine. The director, concerned, goes downstairs to Jackal's car to bring him some medicine. Jackal is left alone in the director's office, and with enough time he installs remote access software on the director's computer. Once the software is installed, Jackal leaves. Meanwhile, Elias Fest is struggling to walk again after being shot in the leg. He refuses to attend his father's funeral in a wheelchair, against the doctor's advice. He walks on the treadmill for a minute. At the same time, Jackal has gained full access to the funeral director's computer using the remote access software. Jackal discovers Manfred Fest's beneficiaries and funeral information, including the name of Elias's driver, Stefan Wolf. Jackal ponders his next move while sitting in his room. He then calls his wife, Nora. Nora, suspicious, asks if he's having an affair, but Jackal denies it. After the phone call, Nora goes to her husband's study room and finds the secret safe on the floor. She tries different combinations, but it won't open. Then, Nora starts looking at the blueprints of the house and manages to find a locked hidden room in her husband's closet. With the help of her brother and mother, Nora opens the door and enters. To their surprise, they find a huge amount of money, fake passports, guns and prosthetics inside. At the same time, Jackal watches them through a security camera installed in the room. Next, Jackal poses as the driver for Elias Fest, kills Stefan Wolf, the real driver, and steals his car. The following morning, Elias gets into his car to go to his father's funeral, unaware that Jackal is driving him. While on the road, Jackal shoots a guard in the car and kidnaps Elias. Jackal speeds through the streets of Munich. Once they are alone, Elias confesses that he hired Jackal to kill his father. He explains that he was angry about being shot in the leg and that's why he withheld the payment. Security personnel overhear their conversation. Elias offers Jackal money to spare his life, but Jackal says it's not about the money. He says, F*******, and shoots him. Jackal plants a bomb in the car and leaves after changing his clothes. Before the security guards reach the car, the bomb explodes and Jackal runs away. Jackal is now driving in a car on a road in France. Not paying attention to the road, he crashes into the back of a truck. The truck driver becomes furious. Jackal offers money for the damage, but the driver refuses. The driver signals the nearby police vehicle, and a police officer arrives. The officer asks Jackal for his documents. After learning that Jackal is coming from Munich, the officer asks him to open the trunk. When Jackal opens the trunk, the officer spots a gun in a bag. Before the officer can pull his gun, Jackal shoots him and also shoots the truck driver. He stages the scene to make it look like the officer and the driver killed each other. Jackal quickly leaves in his car. Later, Jackal calls Nora and asks her to join him in Paris. He says he needs to talk to her about something important. Nora, worried after finding the guns in the hidden room, hesitantly agrees. Later that day, Jackal erases all evidence from his car and checks into a room in Paris. He prepares to meet Nora. Soon Nora knocks on the door. Before Jackal can say anything, she slaps him across the face and demands the truth. Jackal explains that he's a troubleshooter hired by big companies to solve problems using industrial espionage. He admits that his work can sometimes be illegal and requires false identities. He lies again, claiming that he doesn't kill anyone. He assures her that he never lied about loving her or their son. Nora is scared by the dangerous life Jackal is leading, which could harm their family. Jackal reassures her that once his current job is done, they'll have enough money to live the life they want. Meanwhile, the New York team is upset after learning that Jackal killed Elias Fest. They had given specific instructions not to attract attention. However, they are impressed that Jackal took action, despite Elias failing to pay. They ask Leonora, who brought Jackal to them, to stay with him until the job is completed. Later that day, we see UDC swimming on an island he owns in Croatia. His security informs him about a potential contract on his head. His security doesn't want him to leave the island to attend the launch event in Talon, but UDC doesn't care about his life. He seems to be more focused on the launch of River, and decides to go ahead with his plans regardless of the consequences. Later that day, Leonora calls Jackal and informs him that UDC will be in Talon for the launch of River, on the 28th. Jackal arrives in Talon and goes to an arena where a concert is taking place. This is the same venue where UDC is expected to be for the launch event in a few days. During the concert, Jackal begins searching for ideal spots from which he can shoot his target. Jackal ends up on the roof, but soon the roof starts moving, leaving him dangling dangerously from electrical cables. He is close to his death and his phone falls into the crowd below. Despite the danger, Jackal manages to get himself back up onto the roof. After the concert, Jackal retrieves his phone with the help of a worker named Rasmus. Later, Jackal reaches his hotel room, where he is shocked to find Leonora already waiting for him inside. This is the first time Leonora sees Jackal's face after tracking him down to Talon. She warns him not to get on the wrong side of their clients, claiming they are more powerful than anyone he knows. To prove she's serious, Leonora tells him that she knows about Norman Stoke and urges him to succeed. She also mentions that she'll be keeping an eye on him until the mission to kill UDC is complete. We then see Bianca showing her superiors the briefcase she retrieved from Norman Stokes. She assembles the parts to reveal a sniper rifle. Bianca explains that the briefcase holds a sniper rifle in disguise, suggesting that the man who killed Manfred Fest must have hidden his rifle in a similar way. Isabel tells Bianca that the operation to catch Norman is still ongoing. After that, Bianca asks her colleague Damien to go to the military and obtain a list of all past and present snipers who could have made the shot that killed Manfred. After the meeting, Bianca is called into a quiet room by Carver, who psychoanalyzes her to find out if she tipped Norman off before he reached Norman's address in Belarus. Bianca assures him that she did not and leaves the room. Later, Bianca receives a call from her superior, Osita, who asks her to meet in a public place. Osita tells Bianca that there is a mole within the agency who tipped off Norman. He advises her to keep her circle of shared information to a minimum. While in the office, Damien gives Bianca the list of snipers he obtained from the army. Bianca asks him to research their whereabouts at the time of Manfred's death. At the same time, another colleague approaches and tells Bianca that she recovered a number from Norman's phone. The number had been calling Norman multiple times before Manfred's death. The name of the caller was a code name, Jackal. Osita then takes Bianca to a quiet room and informs her that, according to his sources, someone has hired Jackal for another kill. He asks if she knows anything about a certain Rodin. Bianca tells him that Rodin could be Jackal's next target. Osita leaves, stating that they need a breakthrough soon. Later that day, Bianca asks Damien about the sniper list. He tells her that he only found one person worth talking to on the list, a man named George Hans who runs a sniper WhatsApp group. Bianca takes George's address from Damien and leaves to meet him. In the next scene we see Bianca meeting George in his house. George proves to be of no help, even mocking Bianca for trying to find someone who could shoot 3,815 meters accurately. However, he tells her about a man named Alexander Dugin who could have made the shot, but he mentions that Dugin has been dead for a long time. After that, Bianca, who seems frustrated by George, leaves her house. She calls Damien and asks for information about a man named Alexander Dugin. The following day, Larry uses Allison's phone to text Bianca, asking her to meet. Bianca agrees and reaches the location. To her surprise, she finds Larry there with a knife. Larry attacks her and tries to kill her. Her former colleague, Vincent, arrives at the scene, but Larry manages to escape. Bianca and her team go to Allison's hotel room and find Allison lying dead on her bed. Larry has strangled Allison to death. After this incident, Bianca asks Isabella to let Vincent join her team because she trusts him fully. Isabel agrees to include him and asks Bianca to keep her informed about every minute detail. Later that night, Bianca and Vincent go for a drink. When Bianca returns home, she finds Larry holding her daughter, Jasmine, captive. Bianca manages to free Jasmine by shooting Larry in the leg, nearly killing him before Jasmine stops her. Larry continues to refuse to hand over Norman. The next morning, Bianca and Vincent visit Larry in the hospital. They threaten to kill him and his brother if he does not talk about Norman's location. Eventually, he gives up Norman's location, telling Bianca that Norman is in Budapest. He says Norman is staying in a white building that has a cafe and stable near it. Bianca finds that there are several places that match Larry's description. They decide to go to Budapest and check them all. Meanwhile, Jackal contacts Norman using a VPN. Jackal tells Norman that he needs a custom-made weapon that could pass through a metal detector. Norman replies by saying that his hand is badly injured right now and he can't build a weapon without someone's help. Jackal offers to help and Norman agrees. In the next scene, Jackal arrives in Budapest. Soon after, Norman picks him up in his car and brings him to his place. The rifles at Norman's place make Jackal remember his days in the army. Jackal shows Norman the design he made for a metallic boot, telling him that they can hide the rifle in this boot to pass through security. Norman finds this idea brilliant and tells Jackal that it will take 12 to 13 hours for the programming and 3D printing of the weapon. Soon after, they both get to work. Later that evening, they discuss what went down in Belarus. Norman shares that he was shot by a black British woman while there. He says he doesn't know who tipped him off but received a warning from an anonymous number. Jackal accuses Norman of lying to him and warns him to remain discreet. The next morning, Jackal wears the boot made for him and asks Norman to show him how to assemble it. Norman assembles the parts to make the rifle, and Jackal heads off to a nearby woods to try it out. Norman warns that the rifle can only handle 8 shots before it stops working. Meanwhile, Vincent calls Bianca and tells her that Norman's location has been found. They rush toward Norman's place. On the other hand, Jackal is calibrating his rifle by firing at a watermelon. On his way back to Norman, Jackal calls Nora. Suddenly, he gets distracted when he spots Bianca in a car en route to Norman's place. Jackal hides in a cafe, but it turns out that Bianca has spotted Norman's house. Jackal warns Norman to clean up and get out, but it's not long enough. Bianca and her team attack and after a shootout they catch Norman. They interrogate him and Bianca spots Jackal's belongings. Norman doesn't talk, so Jackal shoots him in the head before he can speak. Knowing that Jackal is near, they try to track him down, but Jackal escapes on horseback. As nighttime falls, Bianca and the team are still chasing Jackal. With limited options left, Jackal dives into open water. Bianca becomes super frustrated and starts firing on him while he's in the water. It's not clear if she's killed him. Later, Jackal re-emerges from the water and seeks shelter in a barn, where he gets caught by a farmer. The farmer knocks him out and ties him up. Jackal has been tied up by a local Hungarian farmer named Attila, who is angry at Jackal for trespassing on his property. After a few blows to the face, Attila orders Jackal to leave. However, as Jackal is leaving, Attila discovers Jackal's hidden rifle. Attila decides to bring the tied-up Jackal to his home. At home, Jackal offers money to be let go, but Attila doesn't understand English. He calls his friend Gabby and tells him about the foreign man he has captured. Gabby then calls a third man named Laszlo, who can speak a little English. Jackal speaks to Laszlo and offers them money to let him go. Laszlo tells him that they are coming for further negotiations. Afterward, while Attila is waiting for his friends, he gets knocked down by Jackal. Meanwhile, the police are still on the hunt for Jackal on the way to Attila's house. Attila's friends are warned by the police about a foreign killer, but in their greed, they don't tell the police about the one they have captured and drive away. Later, they reach Attila's home and are shocked to find him dead. Suddenly, Jackal shoots and kills Gabby, and the other man, Laszlo, surrenders to Jackal. Meanwhile, Bianca and Vincent are still at Norman's workshop, and authorities are all over the place. A policeman then informs them about 2 dead bodies they found on a farm nearby. Bianca and Vincent rush toward the farm, hoping to find Jackal there. However, Jackal is long gone. Laszlo helps Jackal escape from the police. On the way, Jackal calls Nora and apologizes for dragging her into his mess. Nora knows Jackal by the name Charlie, and he informs her that he's in Budapest and might not make it out. Nora insists on coming to him. Jackal initially forbids her to come but then tells her to do something for him. He informs Nora about his secret room. Back at MI6, the hunt for Jackal has been named Operation Anubis. Isabel tells Osita to get Bianca and Vincent back to London to plan their next steps. Later, Osita receives a text from an American number requesting to talk about UDC in Hungary. Bianca and others arrive at the farm and look at the dead bodies of Attila and Gabby. They are convinced that it's Jackal's doing. While on the farm, Bianca receives a call from Osita, ordering her to come back to London, but Bianca resists, believing that she is close to capturing Jackal in Hungary. However, after a strict order from Osita, she agrees to return. In the next scene we see Uladu Charles aka UDC, on his private island in Croatia. After his routine swim session, he attends a video conference with his board members. He angers his shareholders by insisting on River's release, disregarding their concerns about the dropping share price. He declares his authority as the top shareholder. Afterward, he rehearses his speech for the launch of River in 4 days. Meanwhile, Laszlo drives Jackal to Budapest. Jackal feels pity for Laszlo and decides to let him live. Jackal threatens to harm Laszlo's family if he tells the police anything and then walks out of the car. Jackal contacts Leonora and assures her that he will be at the venue and will kill UDC. Back at MI6, Carver questions Damien about Bianca's interest in former Army sniper Alexander Dugin. He interrogates Damien and accuses him of being the office mole, but Damien continues to deny these allegations. Later that day, Nora arrives in Budapest and meets Jackal at a hotel. She gives him the disguise material that he requested and watches him put on the disguise of an old and frail man. She then assists the disguised Jackal in a wheelchair to the airport. Nora gets on a plane back to Spain, and Jackal decides to catch a flight to Talon, where UDC is due to launch River. Back at MI6, Osida's American source informs him that UDC is going to be in Talon for his launch event. Osida shares this information with Isabel, and they deduce that Jackal is going to be there too. They ask Bianca and Vincent to get on the flight to Talon instead of London. On the plane, Jackal sees Bianca and Vincent sit next to him. At night, Jackal arrives in Talon. Unfortunately, the police come to his door and question him about a burglary in the apartment above. While Jackal cooperates, one officer seems suspicious of him. The officer takes his number and they leave. Afterward, Jackal calls Rasmus, who helped him earlier while he was checking out the venue. They go out for a drink. Later, Jackal sleeps at Rasmus's apartment. The following morning, Jackal meets Leonora at a library. He informs her about the MI6 agents that arrived in Talon with him and asks for her help to get rid of those agents. Leonora agrees to help and calls in some favors. Meanwhile, Bianca and Vincent meet Osida at the British Embassy in Talon. They have set up a base for Operation Anubis. Osida then uses a sketch artist to make a sketch based on Bianca's descriptions. In Croatia, UDC gets out of the water after his swim session. His personal security head, Keith, asks him not to go to Talon due to security concerns, but UDC refuses and insists on going ahead with his plan. Back in Talon, Rasmus, who works at the venue building, chats with Jackal about the previous night. Jackal, pretending to be an architect, is looking at the blueprints of the venue. Rasmus informs him that after the concert tonight, the venue will be locked down. Jackal convinces Rasmus to slip him into the event building to check it out one last time. Rasmus agrees, having no suspicion about Jackal's deadly motives. In Spain, Nora's mother and brother, Alvaro, continue to express their concern about Charles and what he's up to. They know he has large sums of cash hidden in his secret room. They convince Nora to let them borrow some so her brother can buy a steak at a bar. She reluctantly agrees and takes them to the secret room. Alvaro gets greedy, takes more money than planned and steals a gun. Meanwhile, Jackal is watching all of this from his security camera. Afterward, Rasmus brings Jackal to the venue before the concert. Jackal gets a security badge so he can check out the interior structure of the building. Jackal manages to find a spot where he can stay hidden until the launch event. He then meets Rasmus and states that he will meet him later at the apartment to grab his stuff before leaving. Meanwhile, Operation Anubis gets word that a police officer has identified the sketch as Peter Gibson. The officer informs them that Peter is staying in an Airbnb in Talon. Bianca and Vincent rush toward the location. When they get out of the embassy building, they are immediately ambushed by men shooting at them. Luckily, they manage to get away unharmed, but Bianca is shaken, knowing that she is a direct target for a hit job. When they reach the Airbnb, they are met by a team of soldiers for the raid, but unfortunately, they don't find anything because Jackal is staying with Rasmus. Later at Rasmus's apartment, Jackal packs his suitcase. He says goodbye to Rasmus and leaves. In New York, Leonora's team is upset as their assassins failed to kill Bianca and Vincent the previous night. Meanwhile, at the venue for the concert, Jackal arrives undetected, bringing in his equipment. Inside, he grabs a couple of water bottles and heads toward the concert area. He sneaks into the rafters where he plans to stay for the next 2 days. The next morning, Anubis's team circulates Jackal's sketch around the town. The UDC security team arrives at the venue to inspect the area. Bianca also arrives and gives Jackal's sketch to Keith. The building is locked down and a full inspection takes place, but Jackal remains undetected, hiding in the rafters. While Jackal rests, he begins having flashbacks to when he first met Nora in Spain, where she worked as a waitress. He introduced himself as Charles and invited her to dinner. Back in the present, Bianca continues to oversee security preparations as the event day approaches. UDC arrives at the venue, and the place is packed with police, security guards and Secret Service agents. The event is broadcast live. Bianca's family watches from London, and Leonora's team keeps an eye on the event from New York. Rema, an activist, introduces UDC on stage. UDC steps onto the stage via an elevated platform, and Jackal crawls out of his hiding spot to get into position. UDC gives a speech about the launch of River, a project aimed at creating financial transparency and equality. Jackal, positioned to take the shot, is about to fire when a security guard on stage tries to assassinate UDC but misses. In the ensuing chaos, Jackal's shot misses too, alerting Bianca and Vincent to his presence. Jackal is forced to abort the mission and escapes into the crowd. However, outside he is spotted by Rasmus, who tries to confront him. Jackal kills Rasmus by breaking his neck, leaves him by the road and flees the scene. In a flashback to 2013 in Afghanistan, Jackal is revealed to be Alexander Duggan, a sniper in the British Army. He and his spotter, Gary, are on duty and patiently wait to take their shot. Back in the present, MI6 investigates Jackal, with Bianca believing that Duggan is the only one who fits the description of the elusive sniper. She argues that Duggan's file, heavily censored due to its sensitive nature, is key to understanding Jackal. Isabel, from MI6, tells Bianca she needs to meet with the Foreign Secretary to gain access to the file. Later, Isabel pushes the Foreign Secretary Jeremy to give Bianca the file, though he hesitates. In further flashbacks, Duggan's unit is shown executing a disastrous mission in Afghanistan. They mistakenly kill civilians in a wedding celebration, leading to a cover-up by their commander. Duggan, disturbed by the senseless killings, begins to question the morality of his actions. Later, when Bianca visits Larry in jail, he confronts her about her role in her daughter's death. Larry then kills himself in front of Bianca, further shaking her resolve. Vincent informs Bianca that she has been granted access to Alexander Duggan's file. She reads about Duggan's covert missions, but she remains unconvinced that he is dead. In another flashback, Duggan's unit is ambushed in the desert, and Duggan sets off a bomb, killing his own unit except for Gary. Panicked, Duggan and Gary escape and go into hiding. In Spain, Jackal is seen visiting a vault in a bank, going through his different identities to decide which one to use for his next mission. Later, Jackal spends time with his son in his nursery, unaware that Nora is watching through the baby monitor. She confronts him, revealing she knows his true identity as Jackal. Jackal admits to being a professional killer, and Nora demands the truth. This admission opens the door for a difficult conversation, but Nora is devastated. Back in New York, Bianca struggles with her past actions as she visits her husband, Paul. She admits to missing him, but Paul believes she is only seeking comfort due to her work-related issues. Meanwhile, Jackal promises Nora that he is done with his dangerous life but needs 24 more hours to finish one final job. Nora is shaken and needs time to process the truth. The tension heightens as Alvaro, Nora's brother, gets involved with a shady Cuban gangster, Jimmy Tejero. Jackal agrees to accompany Alvaro to a business meeting with Tejero, further complicating the situation. In Croatia, UDC prepares for the launch of River, ignoring threats from the board. He refuses to delay the project despite growing pressure. Back in London, UK's Foreign Secretary Jeremy meets with Winthrop, who leads a team aiming to kill UDC. They discuss their failed attempts to stop the launch and agree that Jackal is their last hope. Jackal borrows a boat from his fisherman friend to spend a few hours fishing. Meanwhile, Alvaro and the gangster Jimmy are waiting for him at a restaurant. Jackal uses the boat to shoot the gangster in the head from a mile away, then heads toward Croatia the following morning. In the morning, Bianca wakes up and reads the news about a Spanish gangster shot dead in a restaurant. The precision of the kill hints to her that Jackal might be involved. Meanwhile, in Croatia, Jackal hires a boat for bird watching. While they are out at sea, he kills the owner and prepares his rifle on a Steadicam rig to make sure he gets the perfect shot. His boat is spotted by UDC's security, but since it is outside the 2-meter protection perimeter, it is left alone. UDC wakes up and wants to stay in bed, but his partner urges him to clear his mind for the launch today. He tells UDC not to break the routine and go for a swim. His security then prepares him for the swim, and a guard joins him in the water. Soon, the security drone spots suspicious activity on Jackal's boat. A man on a jet ski heads toward Jackal, but Jackal shoots the man. UDC's security now knows about the sniper and tries to keep UDC underwater. A security guard is shot when he comes out of the water, and UDC attempts to head toward the shore. Just as he is about to reach the shore, he is shot in the head by Jackal. Jackal quickly gets away in his boat, followed by UDC's security. In Spain, Nora gets a call from an inspector and is informed that her brother has been taken in for questioning over the death of the gangster. Meanwhile, Jackal is still trying to escape Croatia undetected but is stopped by the police. He then hits an officer with his car and speeds away, narrowly escaping in a high-speed chase through the streets. In New York, Winthrop and his team watch the news, postponing the launch of River indefinitely. They celebrate the death of UDC. Winthrop orders his team to get rid of any loose ends. MI6 agent Bianca is still after Jackal. She talks to Isabel and tells her that UDC died the same way the gangster in Spain did. Bianca feels that both these deaths are connected and should be investigated, but Isabel refuses to keep the case open. This angers Bianca and she quits. Isabel smiles as Bianca leaves the room. After Bianca leaves, the foreign secretary arrives and informs Isabel that since UDC is dead, their friends want to capture Jackal. He advises Isabel to let Bianca deal with Jackal and then let their friends deal with Bianca. In Spain, Nora bails her brother out of the police station. She complains to him that he will never grow up and become a parasite just like their father. She tells him she never wants to see him again and drives away. Meanwhile, Jackal ends up crashing his car after trying to save a kid playing in the street. His car flips over and catches fire, but he is pulled out just in time by a passerby. Jackal then steals the passerby's truck at gunpoint and drives away. Later, Bianca visits her husband Paul at his lecturing hall at the university. She asks him to come home and informs him that she is leaving MI6 for him and their family. She admits to not always being there for her family, and Paul agrees to come home with the kids. Jackal ditches the truck and requests a lift from an elderly couple, asking them to drive him to the hospital. The husband is hesitant at first but then agrees. Later that day, we see Bianca having a pleasant time at home with her family. Suddenly, someone knocks at the door. Jasmine opens the door and we see Isabel, who has come to talk to Bianca. Meanwhile, Jackal holds the elderly couple at gunpoint and makes them drive him to the Montenegro border. He promises not to use his gun if they do exactly as he tells them. Then, Isabel tries to convince Bianca to go after Jackal again and eliminate him. She tells Bianca that she will have to do this on an unauthorized operation, but Bianca refuses to come back. After Isabel leaves, Bianca is clearly thinking about her offer, knowing that she will not let it go. Paul tells her to go and do her job. After killing the elderly couple, Jackal calls home and talks to Nora. He plans a trip with her away from everyone and tells Nora that he loves her. Nora senses that Jackal is in danger and tells him to come home so they can plan their trip. Jackal tells her that he will be there tomorrow. The following morning, Bianca and Vince arrive in Spain. Bianca is sure that either Jackal or someone important to him is in Spain. Meanwhile, Jackal ditches the elderly couple's van by exploding it and easily crosses the Montenegro border on a tour bus. Later, we see Bianca and Vince in a police station talking to an investigator in charge of the gangster's murder case. The officer who released Alvaro refuses to give any more information to Bianca. Vince uses his soft skills to get Alvaro's file, and they soon realize Alvaro's connection to Jackal. They demand an address from the officer. Jackal makes it to Spain and contacts Leonora for his payment. Leonora is told that her finder's fee will be paid when someone called Simon contacts her in her hotel room. She senses that something is wrong. Meanwhile, as Bianca and Vince hide outside Jackal's home, they wait for him to arrive. Bianca wants to take Jackal alive because she wants to know the truth behind everything and who he is working for. Meanwhile, Nora, who is inside the house, panics after there is no sign of her husband. She goes into his secret room and grabs as much cash as she can before hurriedly packing a bag. In the next scene we see that Leonor was supposed to be killed by her team. They sent Simon to her room to eliminate her, but she cleverly manages to escape. As Bianca and Vince are waiting, Nora gets out of the house and gets in a taxi. She has decided to run away from everything and has taken her son with her. Soon, Jackal arrives in Spain and enters his home. Jackal is shocked to find the house empty. Suddenly, he receives a call from Leonora, who warns Jackal that the authorities know he is in Spain and are coming for him. Jackal goes into his secret room and starts to pack his own bag to escape. Bianca and Vince also move inside the house. Suddenly, Alvaro enters the house in a drunk state. He sees the intruder and pulls a gun but gets shot dead. Realizing that he is trapped, Jackal locks himself in the safe room. Bianca sets off a fire alarm and Jackal exits his room. A confrontation takes place and Jackal immediately shoots Vincent dead. Bianca offers to help him find Nora, saying it doesn't have to end this way, but Jackal says that it does. During the discussion they both try to hunt each other. Eventually, Jackal gets the upper hand and shoots Bianca dead. Jackal tries to get away but is hit by a speeding car. A few days later, Isabel is promoted to chief at MI6. Osita is also there and receives a text message from Bianca confirming that Isabel is the mole, but he deletes the text. Jackal, who is still alive, meets Leonor in Budapest. She points out that her team failed to pay them both and wants to go after them for revenge. Jackal agrees but insists on finding his family first. He then disappears into the crowd. Make sure to subscribe for more movie recaps. Thanks for watching.